Sometimes people pay good money to get into a D&D game. You would expect a paid DM to be one of the best, but this one is just a lazy copycat.
But first, a quick shout out to today's sponsor.
Do you want to take your RPG tech to the next level? Get your group together to experience your tabletop game in virtual reality with Dungeon Full Dive, available on both PC and VR. You can play any tabletop role-playing game on it. You name it, it's possible. With Dungeon Full Dive, you can bring your fantasy worlds to life. Use their in-depth, detailed map tool to create maps and worlds. Even better, you can customize and play your own character on your own custom-built maps through your own eyes in first-person gameplay. But if that's not your style, you still get that overhead tactical view if you want it. To get you started, a professionally written one-shot is included in the game so you can run the adventure immediately. It's available on Steam right now, so click the link below to get started. See you there. Roll post. So there I was, eagerly sitting down for this premium D&D campaign that I paid $25 for. Add the next 5 players, and the DM is making $150 per session. We were ready to dive into some epic fantasy adventure, but lo and behold, our DM, let's call him Bob, starts narrating this tale that felt eerily familiar. You see, we're simple village kids. After some brief roleplay, we're visited by a desert wizard who tells us that we have a true destiny. We must save the princess and throw off the shackles of the Empire. Look, I know it's going to get worse later, but so far when you put it that way, Star Wars is no different from any other cookie-cutter fairy tale. It reminds me of that infographic that shows just how many stories are pretty much the same, but told slightly differently. That's why I sometimes question when people get mad about things being unoriginal, because in a way, like 90% of the popular stories follow the same few formulas. So with that in mind, you need to be very direct in your plagiarism to make it this detectable. Here's that now. As the session went on, it became painfully clear that the DM was basically regurgitating the plot of Star Wars. The Death Star was now this overpowered magical fortress, and the Sith were replaced by some evil sorcerer and his minions. I tried to contain my disappointment, but I was fighting a losing battle. Maybe if he just stopped the plagiarism right here, I wouldn't have gotten kicked out. Then we were briefed on our mission and I nearly lost it. Turns out we had to save the princess, who was the only one that had the fortress's plans, which included their weak point. Also, the fortress was actually a giant weapon and the Empire's greatest asset. At that point, I decided to drag my feet and cause a little deviance. If the DM won't be original, it's up to me. I started as soon as the old man shut his copycat Kenobi mouth. Wait a minute. We're plotting a terrorist attack on the government?
The Empire has a massive weapon. We're simply deactivating it.
But the weapon has thousands of people living in it.
It's ugly, but necessary. They can kill much more than thousands with this weapon.
But will they? The rebellion doesn't have any territories. They hide in civilian spaces. And for as long as they've had this weapon, they certainly have not used it. In fact, I'm beginning to think it doesn't exist.
It absolutely does. But even if it didn't, destroying the fortress is the first step to throwing off the shackles of the Empire that rules this world with a fist of iron. This is our only option. This is all beyond your understanding. Are you in or not?
The DM then looked at me and said that if I can't play along with the rest of the party, I need to leave. You know, beneath the fact that they're arguing and not having fun, this is pretty good dialogue. If the DM and player were both enjoying this, it could be one of the campaign highlights. This is rare, but it's amazing when a group is comfortable enough with each other that they can have emotional, heated debates in character And they don't even have to worry about hurting the other player's feelings or interrupting to reassure the others that it's just a game. That usually requires a lot of trust, experience, and chemistry with the other players, and it's incredibly rare. Lastly, funny enough, despite trying to be subversive, OP falls neatly inside the same story trope that we saw earlier. As you can see, step 4 of the hero's journey is the hero refusing the call. While the other players just nodded their heads and went along with it, OP was more Luke than any of them by saying no at first. Later, we made it to the fortress and spent the session saving the princess. I admit there was no shortage of snark coming from me throughout the mission, as the DM was painfully unoriginal. When it happened, I would call it out. But we marched our way back, princess in tow, when we're stopped by a large, imposing knight in black armor, and he draws a red flaming blade. That's right, he went there. Darth Vader. You see, I'm the critic in my group. I'm brutally honest and will communicate how I feel at any given moment. That's just who I am. So, in my nature, I spoke. Quick aside, this might just be me, but people who describe themselves as brutally honest seem to be more focused on the brutality than the honesty. The only people I've met who called themselves that were also the more annoying people in the room. Like, they want to be heavy-handed and mean, but they need to rebrand it to somehow justify it. Anyways, where were we? I said, I know you didn't just put Darth Vader in this game. The DM shot me a look, clearly annoyed. Look, if you don't like it, maybe you should find a different game. I wasn't having any of it. I paid good money for this, man. I expect some originality, not a second-rate knockoff. This is literally just Darth Vader. That is not Darth Vader. Maybe if you played the game, you would be able to tell the difference. Dude, we just infiltrated the Death Star, saved Princess Leia, and now Darth Vader is trying to stop us from escaping. How is this not Star Wars? Look, the DM can and should steal from the media they like. It's normal, and if you think your DM is 100% original and doesn't steal anything, you are wrong. And if you're a DM that doesn't steal anything, quit lying, you're embarrassing yourself. That said, don't steal things, steal concepts. Don't rip the Death Star by making a round gray spaceship in the sky and blows up the princess's home planet. Steal the idea. Identify up to like 3 things that make the Death Star cool and then work from there. If you make the details different enough, you won't even be able to recognize it as the Death Star. I could see the pixels that made up the DM's face turn red as a totally not a lightsaber. And he snapped. You know what? Maybe you should take a break from this campaign. Your attitude is ruining the experience for everyone else. I scoffed. Oh, so now you're the arbiter of fun. Sorry, but I'm not here to play Star Wars. I'm here to play an original D&D game by a DM good enough to pay for. The tension in the chat was palpable, and the other players didn't say anything, clearly uncomfortable with the escalating mood. I then got kicked from the chat. Can't say I didn't deserve it, but I also don't regret it. I feel completely justified in my frustration at the lack of effort and originality. After the game was over, I messaged the DM asking for a refund. These are the receipts. Hey, can I get my $25 back? I didn't get a full game. No, you deliberately forfeited the money when you ruined it for yourself. I wouldn't have done that if you ran a game of D&D. You just replayed Star Wars for us. You're the one who had a problem with it. You keep trying to cause drama where there isn't any. You're the odd one out. Goodbye. I was then blocked. I know one of the other players who stayed in the group, and he said that the game didn't pick back up after that session. I wonder if all the other players also saw how derivative it was and decided to leave, or if this guy in particular just killed the mood and made them want to stop playing. Regardless, it's true that he paid for the game, but so did everybody else. If everybody chips in for a pizza, you don't get to throw the whole thing away because you don't like pepperoni. So, in my opinion, this counts as both the DM and the player are the bad guys, but this is a story about a DM playing a murder hobo like a fiddle. As a DM myself, I have dealt with more than one noob. My advice is one of two things. Either tell him in private that his playstyle is clashing with everyone else's, and because of that no one's enjoying the game, and he can tone it down or he won't be welcome back. Now for how to deal with noob. Mind you, I've only ever done this once and it worked almost too good. I've got a noob who's your stereotypical murder hobo and is ruining the game for literally everyone. I introduce an NPC that's part of the story arc my players are doing, and noob proceeds to try and kill him because he was a noble and might have a buttload of gold on him. So I pause for a moment when it hits me like lightning. Yeah, you kill him all right. And sure enough, he is loaded. In fact, he's got so much gold on him that you win the game. I proceeded to clap at this point. My other players have a look of utter confusion. Congratulations, my friend. You won D&D. Well, the game's over. Those of you who still haven't won the game are more than welcome to continue, but this guy, yeah, he's the real winner here. Mind you, this noob was just glowing with excitement that I was praising him. Then, we commence with the story. The noble NPC gets up, confused about what just transpired, but unharmed. And noob chimes in with, "Hey, I thought I killed him." I look at him and say, "Yes you did, and you won D&D." "Well, I kill him again." "Oh, sorry. You've already won. I'm afraid that once you win D&D, you can't actually play anymore. It's not fair to the other players if I let you continue." The noob was speechless. He honestly didn't know what to say. He looked like a neglected animal as he gathered his things and left. It was extremely tough justice, but it had to be done. I hope he's out there somewhere still playing D&D and he remembers the lesson that was taught. This reminds me of a game of tug of war. You can keep pulling in your direction, but if the problem player is relentlessly pulling his way, you can just let him go and let him fall. Letting the problem player have their way for exactly long enough for them to shoot themselves in the foot is sometimes what's needed. Okay, one more story. My players won't stop calling me Dungeon Daddy. It started off as a joke made by my girlfriend, but now the whole party is doing it and they don't say it normally. They say it in ooh-woo. Someone help me. Guys, I get it. The joke's really funny, but honestly, it's run its course for me and now it's distracting and annoying. Can you please, for my sanity's sake, tone it down? To which the first answer is probably gonna be, "Yes, Daddy." Okay, enough hoarder stories for today. Hope you enjoyed this. Till next time.